Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about Ben, Benny Boy, Benjamin, Benjamin Button, Cartesian Caramel. Obviously you may have seen on the main channel, not that long ago I did a video with Ben, Cartesian Caramel, because he came to London for a visit, his first time outside of the United States. It was very interesting. I showed him around. He did it as a bit of a spontaneous trip. So obviously London is quite close to where I am, and I grew up there, so I had to go and visit him. Actually, I wish people still did Blender meetups in London. They used to. There was a group of people that used to manage them, and I'm still in contact with those. But obviously, COVID kind of put a bit of a dampener on things, and obviously things cost money, so it's a bit of a tricky thing to organize. But anyway, Ben really enjoyed coming here, and it was fun. We did like a bunch of museum trips, and we spoke about a range of things, and we're now sort of like pseudo planning to do a collaboration product together. I don't want to promise anything on that front because obviously, things can get in the way, but we were really interested in a particular type of thing that we looked at a museum, and it's something we're both interested in, so we're doing some experiments at the moment and seeing if anything will come of that. I also learned something interesting from meeting Ben, which is, and again, this will sound weird coming from like a biomed scientist in training, but that concept of like people working on different wavelengths, like their minds running on different wavelengths, and people that are on different wavelengths have like compatibilities. It's very like pseudoscience-y, but I feel like it's true, just in like an instinctive way, I feel like there's some kind of better explanation for that. But when I was hanging out with Ben, this is a weird thing to describe, it kind of felt like he wasn't there. Not like in terms of like him not having attention. What I mean is I felt like there was an intrusive presence with me. What I mean is it felt very natural. Whereas when I've been with other friends, and no shame to other friends, by the way, just not being on the same wavelength doesn't mean that we're not friends or we're incompatible. It just means that there's just different personality dynamics, which can be a good thing, right? Because different personality dynamics make interesting things happen when they collide. But when I've been with other friends I really like, I felt very differently in that I'd come away feeling extremely drained, even though I liked them. And I feel bad about coming away feeling drained. I just feel like it requires a different use of energy to be around them or to match them. Maybe that's another way to think about it. We're constantly trying to match the energy levels of different types of friends. And with Ben, it felt like we were just completely on the same level, so it didn't require any adaptation. That's why I say it kind of felt like he wasn't really there, because I didn't feel like I was having to like kind of lower or raise to someone else in the space. I feel like that's the best way to put it. I also noticed some interesting things. Maybe he'll watch this, but like even when I brought him to the studio here and he sat down, he kind of did like a little recording. I don't know if I've put out like the actual like improvised thing he did yet, but he would sit down and then he would start fidgeting with the exact thing that I fidget with on my desk. He's never been here before. Just keep that in mind. He sat down, I set up the recording thing for him. He just had a little bit of fun improvising and he started fidgeting with this. I mean, I made it. It's the fidget toy of my inner ear. Ben actually made the volumetric like scan tool in geometry nodes, but then I took it, prepped it for printing, printed it with PLA PVA, and it was just weird kind of watching him from behind going, wait, you've just like phased into my space and you're doing exactly what I'm doing. So talking about like operating on the same wavelength, I was just like, what the like so that was just weird to me because I haven't really had that with a friend before. Again, I don't want to make any other friends feel bad about this. It's not an intrinsically bad thing because I know Charon's going to watch this. Charon, one of my other best friends in the world, and I love him. But Charon has like a far more excitable tone to his existence, which is again something I like about him. He's like this sort of bubbly positivity, but I'm not intrinsically a source of bubbly positivity. I'm very much more mellow. I don't even know how to describe myself. I'm constructive, intellectual. Is that right? I try and make something wherever I go, but I'm intrinsically introverted. I'm curious. I don't like to be around other people, but I also don't have trouble phasing through people. That's actually one difference I noticed with Ben and I. I was comfortable moving in a crowd within reason, but Ben was kind of more visibly uncomfortable with moving through large crowds. But that's also maybe, I suppose, part of the London training. I've grown up in London. I understand and I'm more comfortable matching the patterns of walking through people. Actually, it's not even just London. Like I probably like combined spent a year or more of my life in Florida because I've been to Disney a lot. We had a family home out there for quite a long time, like 10 years or something. And I've spent a long time growing up moving through crowds of people in like very densely populated spaces like that. I match into a crowd's motion very easily. I got the feeling that Ben isn't as used to that. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just like kind of social, cultural differences. But there is a kind of funny story to this, because when I met up with Charon, the more excitable friend, in London, I met him and we kind of tagged up with another one of his friends that was in London, a female friend, and they were kind of both here for university. We went for a walk around like the kind of Camden, Primrose Hill area. This was already after I'd walked around Charon a little bit, like around the Soho area. And I was feeling pretty consistent all the way through it, but they got to a point where I think Charon's friend asked Charon if I was okay because I looked like I wasn't that interested in being there. But I think it was partly because, like, as the energy level drops, the amount of attention I give to my face drops as well. And this may be like a slightly autistic trait. My brother's just been diagnosed with autism, and I definitely have like ADD quirks. But I feel like, because I hadn't met his friend before, and like I said, Charon has this kind of high energy level that it takes energy to match. So it just gets to a point throughout the day where it's just like, okay, I can't keep up like the facial appearance anymore. It doesn't change anything internally, but it's just like, I'll just go blank face from now on because I'm using those energy reserves on everything else. Now, I imagine people listen to that and go, oh, that's masking. That's a form of masking. And I guess it is in some way, but I feel like it's just more of like energy reserves because I still feel like I'm present. I'd never really miss out on social cues. I understand social cues perfectly. That's the weird thing when talking to the family about like autistic traits and stuff. I don't have trouble with social things, and I never have done. I understand people and the dynamics and the unspoken rules like really well. So like when speaking about autistic traits, I don't fit into that category as much as like my brother does, but I do have this energy regulation thing that pops up where I'm just like, hey, fuck it. But like inside things are still the same, but the face is just like, you know, resting bitch face again. I don't intrinsically wear what I'm feeling internally on my face like other people do. I know some people, they just like wear it all the time. I have like a disconnect, and I feel like there are other people like that. It doesn't devalue what's happening internally. It's just we have to expend energy to convert what's happening internally onto the face. There's a separation there. At least I suppose that's how I'm thinking about it. I've also noticed that there's some kind of like sense of time regulation thing that's different between people. Again, talking about people being on different wavelengths. Like I've gone to meet someone in London before and I've arrived like an hour early, or rather they arrived like an hour late. And they've been really apologetic and I've just been like, no, that's fine. I have no problem like being early. I literally just sat down and just watched people for an hour and it just went by like that. Or whenever I'm going out somewhere, like if we're going out as a family, I'm always ready early and I'm like primed and ready to go, fully kitted out, shoes on, etc. And my mum's like, there's still half an hour, there's still like an hour until we go. And I'm like, yep, it'll be gone like that. And every time she says it, I say yes. But now think about the 30 previous times you said exactly the same thing to me, and now it's here in the present. You said I was ready too early dozens of times in the past, in previous years, but now look at us. We're here in the present. All that time has passed. Do you see what I mean? Like time folds. I have this weird perception of time. If I want to, I can just like phase out and hey, here we are in the future. I feel like it's also something I've trained from having to do like really long journeys in the past. What I would do is, say if I was on a flight, I would intentionally save up the small tasks. You know, like if you have something to do, I always hated how like burning through the entertaining stuff and then still having like a long time left on a flight, that really annoyed me because you've gone through like all this psychological, emotional effort and there's still a huge amount of time to go. That's why I don't really watch movies on flights anymore, because when you watch a movie, if it's one you haven't seen, especially if it's emotional, you've gone through like a whole journey. You feel like by the end of the movie, you should have arrived at your destination, but you haven't. In fact, you know, you watch a movie and you look up and you still got like 7 hours left of the flight and you're like, okay, that doesn't feel right. So what I do is for flights, I download like 12-hour compilations of some of my favorite YouTubers, like the Game Grumps, funny compilations. So it's just funny moment, funny moment, funny moment, funny moment. And you don't even get through the whole video. And by that time, the flight's already over. There's no like progression of this emotional intensity where you feel like you're going through a journey and you're disappointed that it's still not over by the end. There's just moment after moment after moment. When there was less to work with, I also stretched things out. So like if they put me a newspaper on the flight, and I don't think they do that anymore. That's a shame. Like I really liked it when they would offer newspapers and I would like take my time, or if I had a book, I would leave it as long as I could go before starting to read the newspaper. When I was so bored that I couldn't handle not reading it anymore, then I would start reading. And then I would be a bit meticulous and I would convince myself that the flight has just started. And really, we haven't really started our journey until I'm done with the newspaper. But realistically, like a couple of hours or a few hours would have passed by that time. So daydreaming, daydreaming, daydreaming. We We haven't even started our journey, haven't even started. How do I feel? I'm still daydreaming about other things. Yes, contemplation, contemplation. Okay, now let's start reading. Then it would have been like 1 or 2 hours or something. Then I'll start reading the newspaper and I'll go through a lot of it. And yeah, sure, that can make you sleepy, but that's not a bad thing on a flight. You want to try and fall asleep. And then when I'm kind of done with that, then I'll start those long comps. So really my technique is just like really seeing the world in slow motion, if that makes sense. Ironically, the way to pass time is to see the world in slow motion. At least that's my technique. So like when it comes to people watching, if I'm waiting for someone, if I'm early, I will sit and I will people watch, and there's always something happening. There's always a car going by. There's always a dog walking by. There's always someone, and everyone's dressed slightly differently. There's always a building. There's always structure to look at and analyze. So if you're trying to pass the time, that's like 1,000 things to consider. And actually, people go by really quickly when you're thinking about things in slow motion. So you've only got so long to look at them and analyze them and think about their life. So if you're bored and you don't know what to do while you're waiting, just break down your environment into like tasks, essentially. I can consider the sky and the weather and what does this remind me of. I can consider the buildings. What and who do they remind me of? Let's look at the structure of the buildings, etc. What nature is going by? What can I hear? Do I know anything about the birds that live around here? What about the cars? What's happening on the news? Is there anything that I have on me, a book or something I could read in this moment? What would the feeling of reading here be like? Would someone try and steal the book? Would I look like a pretentious arsehole if I started reading? But is there something beneficial about the vibe of reading here? What are people talking about around me? Are there people in close proximity? All of these things. You basically have like a canvas of stuff to work with, and then just enjoy the kind of transitory moments of experiencing those. Thinking in like a slow motion way like that, which is a bit of a weird term. It's more like granularly experiencing the world around you as it's changing. That really helps me to pass the time. I feel like it's part of the reason why time passing just doesn't really concern me. I'm quite a patient person. Although one thing that does make time go slower for me is suffering. That's something I can't really phase out as easily. Some forms of suffering I can, some I can't, which is why whenever like a medical problem pops up, I feel like time really slows down to a halt because it kicks me out of that process of mine. Anyway, maybe there's something in there you can relate to. That's where we'll leave the video. If you made it this far, put some kind of walking or person emoji in the comments, or a city emoji, so I can see if you made it this far. You can support my projects on Patreon, so all of my different channels and the development projects I work on and my education. Check out curtisol.online/store for more information. So yeah, have a great day everyone, and I'll see you next time.